I shouldn't have been there that late. The hallway outside her apartment smelled faintly of old wood and rain. I stood with my hand against the doorframe, listening to the muted hum of her record player on the other side. Something slow. Something she probably thought nobody else would notice she liked. When the door opened, she looked at me the way she always did, half surprised, half guarded, as if I was the last person she expected and the one she didn't know how to turn away. Her hair was damp from the shower, tied back without much care, a loose sweater hanging off her shoulder. Nothing polished, nothing meant to impress. And somehow, that made it worse for me. "You shouldn't be here," she said, but her voice was soft. Not angry, just tired. I shrugged, forcing a grin I didn't feel. "Then why'd you open the door?" She didn't answer. She just stepped aside, and I walked in. Her apartment was dim, only the lamp near the sofa on, throwing gold light across the books stacked in careless piles. I sat down, my hands restless against my knees, watching her move to the kitchen. The sound of the kettle filled the silence. She always made tea, even when it went cold untouched. "You're young," she said finally, not looking at me. She poured water into a chipped mug, and her hand trembled only once before she steadied it. "And you're—" I caught myself, biting the word back. "Older." It wasn't what I meant, not really. "You're you." I finished instead, though it sounded clumsy. That made her turn. Slowly. Her eyes lingered on me too long, like she wanted to believe I wasn't joking. But then she shook her head, forcing a small smile that didn't touch her eyes. "This is reckless," she whispered. I leaned back on the sofa, pretending to be casual though my chest felt tight. "Then let it be." She set the mug down in front of me, untouched again, then crossed her arms. "Promise you won't tell anyone," she said, the words sharper this time. But the way she avoided my gaze gave them away. A plea hiding under the warning. I stared at her hands instead of her face, the way her fingers dug into the fabric of her sweater, how her knuckles went pale. "Not if you promise me tonight," I said before I could stop myself. Her eyes snapped up, wide. For a moment, the whole room was too still. The record had finished, the kettle had stopped. Even the street outside seemed to hold its breath. I felt the weight of what I'd said settle between us, heavier than any silence we'd shared before. She walked closer, slow, almost cautious, until she stood a few feet away. "You don't know what you're asking," she murmured. Maybe she was right, but I couldn't look away. My pulse thudded hard, every second louder than the last. I wanted to reach out, but my hand stayed rooted against the sofa cushion, gripping it as though it would keep me from falling forward. Her gaze lingered on me, too long for it to mean nothing, too conflicted for it to be easy. Then she drew in a shaky breath, her lips parting as if she might say something final. But before she could, the sound of her phone cut through the silence. A sharp vibration on the table. The screen lit up. A name I didn't recognize. Her eyes darted toward it, then back to me. And for the first time, I saw fear flicker across her face. The name on her phone screen glowed between us like a warning sign. She didn't answer, just let it buzz against the wood until the sound died out. I couldn't help myself. Who was that? Her jaw tightened. No one. Too quick, too practiced. I leaned forward, resting my elbows on my knees. "You don't lie well." Her laugh was hollow. "That's because I don't lie often." Something in the way she said it made me shut up. I leaned back again, but my chest wouldn't unclench. I'd known her for months, maybe longer in a way that felt like years. Meeting by chance at the cafe where I worked part-time, her always sitting by the window with her notebook, pretending to write. It had started as banter, small jokes over coffee refills. Then I started staying later, wiping the same counter just to keep talking. But I never asked about the ring she sometimes wore. Not until now. "Is it him?" I said quietly. Her hand froze on the edge of the sofa, her knuckles white again. Then she pulled it back, brushing invisible lint off her sweater. "It's complicated." Complicated. That word always means don't push. But I couldn't stop. "You don't have to explain," I said, though everything in me screamed for her to. Her eyes softened then, almost like an apology. "I was married. I still am, technically. He's in London. Work, or maybe an escape. We haven't spoken in months." She let out a breath, one that shook a little on the way out. But I can't pretend it doesn't matter. Her honesty knocked the wind out of me. I tried to mask it by picking up the cold mug she'd set down earlier, letting the heatless porcelain give my hands something to do. I wanted to tell her about me, How the only serious relationship I'd had ended when she told me I was too much, too intense, too young. I wanted to admit how those words stuck, how every look this woman gave me stitched the pieces back together in ways I didn't want to depend on. But instead I said, "So that's why you keep looking at me like I'm a mistake." Her head snapped up, startled. She opened her mouth to argue, then closed it. For once, she didn't correct me. She just studied me, her eyes moving over my face like she was memorizing something she didn't want to admit she liked. "You should be out with girls your age," she said finally, her voice low, almost resigned. "Maybe I don't want girls my age." My tone came out sharper than I meant. Silence stretched, heavy and charged. I set the mug down too quickly, the sound clinking against the table. She flinched, then covered it with a forced smile. Her hand brushed past mine as she reached for the cup. Just a brush, skin against skin, quick enough to be an accident, but neither of us pulled away. Her fingers lingered, a hesitation too deliberate. I looked at her. She looked back. And for the first time, neither of us pretended to move. Her hand still lingered against mine when the knock came. 3 sharp raps at the door. Too loud for this hour. Too sudden. She snatched her hand back as if burned, rising quickly, smoothing her sweater. My pulse jumped, but not from the touch this time. "Are you expecting someone?" I whispered. She didn't answer, just froze for a second, eyes darting to the door like it might explode open. Then, another knock, this one slower. "Claire," a man's voice called. Steady, familiar. "You home?" Her shoulders tensed. I mouthed the word, "Him?" She didn't nod, didn't shake her head, just gave me a look that said, "Don't move." I sank lower into the sofa, heart hammering against my ribs. Every sound felt too loud. My breathing, the creak of the cushion under me, the tick of the old clock on her shelf. She stepped to the door, pressed her palm flat against it, but didn't open. "Not a good time," she said, her voice steady but pitched higher than usual. There was a pause on the other side, then the faint scrape of shoes shifting. "I just wanted to check in." Silence stretched. She closed her eyes, lips pressed tight. "Tomorrow," she said. "Please." Another pause, then retreating footsteps. The hallway went quiet again. She didn't move right away, just stood there, hand still on the door, chest rising and falling too quickly. When she finally turned, her eyes landed on me. And all the walls she'd built since the moment I walked in, they looked cracked. "You should go," she whispered. The words cut sharper than the knock had. I stood, but not toward the door. "You don't mean that." "I do." She folded her arms, though her hands trembled against her elbows. "This," she gestured between us, "it's not fair. To you. To him. To anyone." I stepped closer, until I was only a foot away. Her eyes flickered down to my mouth, just for a second, before she forced them back to mine. "You don't get it," I said, voice low. "I've tried walking away. I can't." Her breath caught, just audible. She shook her head, but her body didn't move back. For a moment, the air between us felt electric, thick enough to drown in. My hand twitched at my side, wanting to reach for her cheek, her hair, anything. But then her phone lit up again on the table. Same name, same glow. She glanced at it, then at me. And for one unbearable second, we both leaned the smallest bit forward, like the world had tilted us closer without asking permission. Then she pulled back. Fast. She pressed her palms against my chest, not to hurt, just to stop. "Don't," she said. It was a whisper, but it carried more weight than a shout. I froze, breath shallow. Her hands stayed there longer than they should have, against my shirt, heat seeping through the fabric. Finally, she let go, turned away. "Go," she repeated, softer this time. But I didn't move. I couldn't, because even with her back turned, I saw it, the slight tremor in her shoulders, the way she gripped the edge of the counter like she might break. And I knew. She wanted me to leave. But part of her wanted me to stay. I should have walked out when she turned away from me. I should have let her keep her walls. But I didn't. Instead, I stepped closer, my voice low, urgent. "You keep telling me to go, but you don't want me to." Her shoulders stiffened. "You think you know what I want?" "Yes." My answer was too fast, too certain. She turned then, sharp and sudden, eyes blazing. "You're a boy." The word stung worse than a slap. I swallowed hard, but I didn't back down. "I'm here. I'm in front of you. And I'm not going anywhere unless you make me." Her mouth parted, but no sound came out. Just that silence again, the kind that pressed against the walls, heavier than any sound. I pushed forward. Do you know what it does to me? Watching you look at the door every time your phone lights up. Like I'm the one trespassing in your life. Like I'm the mistake. My voice cracked, but I didn't care. She tried to laugh, but it broke halfway through. That's exactly what you are. The words sliced deep, but her eyes betrayed her. They didn't match. You don't believe that, I whispered. She took a step toward me then, almost against her own will. Her hands clenched at her sides. You don't understand the mess this would be. I can't give you the future you think you want. I can't even untangle my present. I shook my head. I'm not asking for a future. I'm asking for right now. That was it, the breaking point. Her face shifted, not softer, not harder, just raw. Do you have any idea what people would say? My friends, my family, your friends. My son. She bit the last word, her breath hitching. He's barely older than you. Do you get that? The mention of him. The invisible line I wasn't supposed to cross, hung between us like a live wire. I felt my stomach drop, but I didn't move. Do you hate me for it? I asked, my voice rough. She blinked, startled. What? For wanting you. For not being able to stop. My hands curled into fists at my sides. Because I swear, I've tried. I've walked away in my head 1,000 times. But every damn time I end up back here at your door. Her lips trembled. For the first time, she didn't try to hide it. Something shifted in the air, less resistance, more surrender. She whispered, almost to herself, You're going to ruin me. I stepped closer, so close I could see the faint pulse at her throat, the way her breath caught when I moved. Then let me ruin you. Her hand lifted, slow, trembling, and for one suspended second, I thought she might touch my face. But before it could land, the doorbell rang. The sound crashed through the moment, sharp, merciless. We both froze, caught between what almost happened and what was about to. The doorbell rang again, louder this time. She looked at me, eyes wide, skin pale, and whispered, Don't say a word. I stepped back, sinking into the corner of the sofa like a shadow. My chest hammered, every breath shallow, uneven. She opened the door only a crack, and that was all it took. Mom. My blood went cold. The voice was young, male, too familiar. Her son. He stood in the hallway, backpack slung over one shoulder, damp hair sticking to his forehead like he'd been caught in the rain. Confusion crossed his face as he glanced past her into the dimly lit apartment. What are you doing here? She asked quickly, her voice sharp, strained. Class got canceled. Thought I'd surprise you. Why's the light on so low? He tried to peer past her, but she blocked the way. I held my breath, body pressed into the cushions, praying the shadows would hide me. Every second stretched. Now's not a good time, she said. Too fast. Too nervous. He frowned. Are you with someone? The words landed like stones. My stomach twisted. Her silence was worse than any answer. She opened her mouth, closed it, tried again. No, she said finally, but the crack in her voice betrayed her. He narrowed his eyes. Then let me in. She hesitated. Too long. Too telling. I couldn't take it anymore. I rose from the sofa before my brain could stop me. The floor creaked under my step, and his gaze shot past her to me. His face froze, then hardened in an instant. What the hell? Her hand flew to her mouth. Wait. He dropped his bag with a thud. Are you serious? Him. His eyes burned into me, then back at her, full of disbelief and something sharper, betrayal. I tried to speak, but the words tangled. It's not. Don't, he snapped, cutting me off. Don't you dare try to explain this. She reached for him, desperate. Please, let me. Tell me I didn't just walk in on this. His voice cracked. His fists clenched at his sides, trembling. The room felt too small, the air suffocating. My chest ached with the weight of it, with the truth spilling out in silence even before it was spoken. And then he said it, low, venomous. You're my friend. The words hit harder than any punch. My throat tightened. His friend. His mother. The two worlds that should have never touched, colliding in the worst possible way. Claire. Her face crumpled, pain etched deep. I didn't plan this, she whispered. I swear. He laughed, hollow, broken. You didn't plan it? That's supposed to make it better? He grabbed his bag, shoving past her, his shoulder colliding with the frame. You've ruined everything. The door slammed behind him, the echo shaking the walls. She stood there, her hand still stretched out toward the empty doorway, trembling. And me. I couldn't move. Couldn't speak. The truth sat like fire in my chest, burning through the last of the lies. The silence after the slam of the door was worse than the confrontation itself. Claire stood frozen, her back to me, hand still resting on the doorframe as though holding it shut could undo what just happened. Her shoulders rose and fell with shallow, uneven breaths. I wanted to move to her, to say something, anything, but my body stayed rooted where I was. Finally, she turned. Her eyes were glassy, her cheeks pale. "You should go," she whispered. Not sharp this time, broken. I shook my head. "Not after that. You don't get it." Her voice cracked. "He hates me now? My own son. Because of this. Because of us." I stepped closer, the words spilling out before I could stop them. "He'll understand. Maybe not tonight. Maybe not soon. But," she cut me off, fierce in her pain. "You're a child to him. His friend. Do you understand what this looks like? What it makes me?" The words hung between us, heavier than the air we breathed. I wanted to argue, to tell her she was wrong, that she was more than whatever label or judgment might come. But instead, what came out was softer. "What does it make you to you?" Her lips trembled. For a long moment, she didn't answer. Then, barely audible, "Alive." That single word gutted me. I reached out, hesitant, my hand brushing against hers. She didn't pull away. Her fingers curled against mine, weak at first, then stronger, like she needed the anchor. "You make me feel alive," she said again, steadier this time, her eyes locked on mine. "And that terrifies me." I swallowed hard, the ache in my chest near unbearable. "Then let's be terrified together." She let out a sound, half laugh, half sob. "You don't know the cost." "I don't care about the cost." My voice shook, but I didn't hide it. "I care about you." For a second, we just stood there, hands tangled, silence pulsing with everything we hadn't said. Then she pulled me into her arms, sudden, desperate, clutching me as if letting go meant losing more than she could bear. I held her back, my chin buried in her hair, breathing her in. When she finally pulled away, her face was inches from mine. Her breath brushed my lips, her eyes searching me as though she wanted to memorize every detail before making an impossible choice. "Promise me one thing," she whispered. "Anything. If this ends, if he never forgives me, don't hate me for walking away." The weight of it nearly crushed me, but I nodded, even as every part of me screamed against it. "I could never hate you." Her eyes softened, the fight in them flickering out, replaced by something raw and unguarded. We didn't kiss. We didn't need to. The moment was louder than any kiss could have been. When she finally let go of my hand, the absence burned. And I knew, whatever came next, nothing would ever be the same. Morning came too soon. I hadn't slept. Neither had she. We'd sat in the dim light of her kitchen, 2 mugs of untouched tea between us, letting the silence say the things we couldn't. Her son hadn't come back. Not yet. But the echo of the slammed door still lingered in the apartment, as if it had carved itself into the walls. When she finally spoke, her voice was hoarse. "He's all I have." I stared down at my hands, restless against the mug. "And what am I?" Her eyes flickered toward me, and I saw the answer before she spoke. Not a replacement. Not a fling. Something she hadn't expected, hadn't asked for. Something that both saved her and threatened everything else. "You're the part of me I thought was gone," she said quietly. "But he's my son. I can't lose him." I wanted to argue, to tell her she wouldn't lose him forever. That time could fix what last night broke. But I saw it in her face. The fear, the regret, the love stretched too thin between 2 impossible choices. So instead, I leaned back in my chair, let out a slow breath, and said the hardest words I'd ever spoken. "Then maybe I should be the one to go." Her eyes filled. "Don't." She reached out, catching my wrist before I could move. "Don't make this noble. Don't pretend you don't want to stay." "I do," I admitted, my throat raw. "God, I do. But if staying means he'll never look at you the same way again, then I can't be the reason for that." She pressed her lips together, trembling. Her hand slid from my wrist to my fingers, holding them like something fragile. "You don't know how rare this is," she whispered. "How rare it is to feel seen." I squeezed her hand once firm. "Then remember it. Even if we don't end up." I stopped, unable to finish. The silence stretched again, but it wasn't empty this time. It was heavy with everything we'd lived through in the last 24 hours, everything we hadn't dared put into words. Finally, she stood, moving toward the door. She didn't ask me to leave. She didn't have to. I followed. At the threshold, she turned, eyes red, voice low. Maybe someday, when it's not so wrong, when it doesn't cost so much. I nodded before she could finish. Maybe someday. Her lips trembled with a smile that never quite formed. She brushed her fingers once along my cheek. Barely a touch, barely there, and then she stepped back. I walked out. The morning air cold and biting, the world suddenly louder than it had been inside. I didn't know what tomorrow would bring, whether her son would ever forgive, whether she'd ever call me again. But I knew one thing. We had seen each other, truly seen, and that would never fade. And sometimes, that had to be enough. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?